following video is one of 2 recordings from the Herd Health Management Seminar presented by the University of Florida IFAS South Florida Beef Forage Program on Thursday, April 21st, 2022 at the UF IFAS Extension Polk County's Stuart Center in Bartow. The 2022 Herd Health Management Seminar is sponsored by Merck Animal Health. Sponsors like Merck Animal Health help make extension programming possible by offsetting expenses. The Herd Health Seminar is an educational program focused on health management practices in the beef cattle herd. The information shared during these programs can offer tools to producers in their health management decisions. Herd health is only part of an overall management system that includes nutrition, genetics, and reproductive management. Each of these is key to the success of a beef cattle operation.
Before, she's a legacy verified. She is a 4th generation Florida cattle rancher. She has a love for the cattle industry, started when she was really young, helping her dad on the ranch. And the ranch was founded in the 1930s. After she graduated from Texas A&M University with a degree in Ag Communications and Journalism, really came home to continue to work on the ranch and later co-founded Legacy Verified. A third-party verification company, Legacy Verified, is dedicated to customer service and protecting the legacy of cattle operations. Today, in addition to her role with Legacy Verified, Breely and her mother own a small purebred registered Brangus herd of their own and raise and train performance quarter horses. Breely is involved in leadership with the Florida Cattlemen's Association and currently serves as chair of the Beef Marketing Committee. All right, so Breely, thank you for being here. Yes, so we also have Mr. McCullers, Mr. David McCullers with Crooked Lake Ranch, and he also is a purebred seed stock producer. David is also a 4th generation Florida cattle rancher. Everybody that we have here today raises their own cattle as well, so they can take this from the perspective of the producer themselves, as well as the way that I'm asking them to represent themselves today. He's a 4th generation Florida cattle rancher. He grew up on a Hereford ranch in North Florida and has been involved in the beef and Hereford cattle industry his whole life. Mr. McCullers manages Crooked Lake Ranch, founded in the 1950s by the late Mr. Pat Wilson. David has honored the legacy of Mr. Wilson by adhering to strict breeding and selection practices to create the best mama cow that can harvest grass and turn it into meat and milk. In addition to developing productive quality Hereford cattle, McCullers markets composite F1 bulls and manages a commercial herd. David served on the Polk County Cattlemen's Board of Directors and as a state director for the Florida Cattlemen's Association. Thank you, Mr. McCullers, for being here. All right, and Mr. Dave Tomko, Mr. Mike's brother. He is, like we mentioned before, he and his brother have Cattlemen's Livestock Auction Market. They have been in the business with Cattlemen's Livestock Auction Market for over 30 years, he and his brother. So thank you for doing that. The market was founded in 1951 by Jim Robertson, Harry McCullum Jr., and H.B. McCullum. Ranchers can market their cattle through the ring or via Superior Livestock Auction sales. The market offers Cattlemen's Back program sales that are starting here this summer, right? The sales will begin. And that is a vaccination program to help add value and improve the marketability of cattle. Dave and Mike also manage their own herd of commercial cattle. Dave serves on the Polk County Cattlemen's Association Board of Directors and is the past president. I invited these various representatives to kind of help give a picture of overall, marketing cattle. And like I said, Breely is with a third-party verification company. Some of these value-added programs, process verified programs, we'll talk a little bit about that, but those are really important that we have the involvement of people that do third-party verification. Mr. McCullers is sort of representing the seed stock business, as well as he's got his commercial cattle, and Mr. Tomko, the local livestock market, and then Mr. Mike Tomko as the superior livestock, which they're kind of together anyway, but that's where we're going with this panel. All right, so Mr. McCullers, can you explain how you developed your current herd health program? Maybe tell us a little bit about the program and how you developed it.
Well, back in the 70s, we started vaccinating cattle in North Florida, simply with our veterinarian's recommendation. And as a young fellow, I just kind of fell in line and did what I was told. Through the years of management, I saw that the vaccines become a necessity for my herd health in order to produce the cattle that we have today, to run the genetics that we're striving for, to make the efficiency go along with the genetics. We've had to maintain a very good protocol for herd health. here recently, Dr. Andy Bennett and I sat down and he made a protocol for the ranch to advance that program even further, because I kind of got stuck using product after years, and when I started selling cattle out west, I was running into a little hiccup because I was using the modified a kill vaccine, and I went to a modified live in the last few years in order to advance, to keep up with the current trends and where we need to be health-wise.
Also, do you market your cattle based on any particular program, whether it's one of the breed programs or any of the other process verified or value-added programs at all?
Yeah, I have a set of commercial Herefords that I use my Angus genetics on and make an English F1 that I can market all the way up to Kansas and Nebraska. And so I went with a VAC 34 with Dr. Andy Bennett and I sitting down making the decisions off of what we needed to do with our calf program, and we've really seen the benefits from changing that from where we were to where we are, and I've been able to put those calves out on video now, and I'm getting a lot more response because of the vaccination program has caught up to speed to where we're at as a national cattle.
Okay, and then for your customers who are buying your genetics, are there any programs that the specific breed association or marketing programs that your calf clients might take advantage of?
Yeah, Bridget, there's the certified Angus program, which would be in my Angus genetics, and my Hereford genetics has got the Hereford certification program. It's really tough to get involved in those. They're breed association driven type programs from down here in this part of the country. I mean, you have to kind of get the participant program with the Hereford people, and so it's a little tougher on us being in the region of Florida to get in those breed association programs, but they do qualify because my F1, my black Baltic calves are qualified instantly for certified program, and when they get to the next level the Hereford cattle are a little bit harder to get in the program in Florida.
Okay, all right. So any questions for Mr. McCullers at this point before I let him turn the mic over to anybody else? Okay. All right, Bridget, I'm putting you in the hot seat now.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Yes. So, and by the way, some of the folks just handed out some evaluations that you got. We ask whenever we do these programs, it's our way of improving our programs. If you please just provide us with some feedback, we appreciate you taking the time to fill those out. So just make sure you do those before you leave. I appreciate that. So Bridget, if this is the first time I ever heard of a process verified program or third-party verification, can you tell me what it is and what do I need to know about it?
So the basic way I explain to anyone, whether it's someone that's in the agriculture industry or someone that I meet in the grocery store, they're from the city, anything, the basics way I explain it is if you go to the grocery store and you're looking at a package of meat and it says all natural, hormone-free, grass-fed, anything like that, my company is one of the companies that come in and make sure that ranch, that feed yard, that packer is following those USDA protocols for that program. The USDA has a set of standards for every program, and we are the third-party company that comes in to make sure the ranch, the packer, and the feed yard are following those protocols.
Okay, all right. And then if a producer wants to become third-party verified, what are the steps involved?
So initially what you would contact myself or anyone in my company, and we would send you an application. We would go over the things that are required for the program. One thing, let's just talk about all natural program. So what you will have to do, you would have to have your first and last calf born date, because we do assign birth dates so we can know the oldest calf in that group, because nothing can be harvested over 30 months of age. So we need to know the birth dates in that group. We need to know what kind of identification you have on them. They have to have EID tags, and that goes into traceability so that if something happens, they get to the packer and they test them, they show up with antibiotics or hormones, they can scan that EID tag, come directly back to us, so we can go back to the packer or the feed yard, then to the ranch, and know exactly what happened with that calf. We need to know if you have any antibiotics on site. You're allowed to have antibiotics on site. You have to identify if you have to treat something. You're completely allowed to treat them. They fall out of the program. You just have to identify that that was a treated calf. If I show up on your place and you say, yes, I've treated 5 calves, I go out in the pasture, I say, okay, show me your treated calves. You say, oh, they're all the ones that have a red tag in their ear, or they have a crop in their left ear, something like that. You have to have some way of identifying them. If you have hormones on site, if you have an AI program, you have to document hormones that you have on site. You're allowed to have them, you just have to document them. And then when it comes time to shipping, we have to know, okay, you told us you have 550 calves that you want to put in the program. When it comes time to shipping, you have to document however many calves you shipped. We have to know that. And then we also have to know your feeds or your minerals, supplements, anything like that. We need to know, okay, do you have, what products are in them? Are there any animal byproducts? Are there any antibiotics, hormones, beta agonists, ionophores, anything like that? Those are all prohibited products. So we have to look at that feed tag and the ingredient list that's in that to ensure that your cattle will not fall out of the program.
Okay, so for anybody who wants, first I'm assuming they're gonna have to know who they're marketing, you know, if they've got a buyer for that sort of a program, but if they wanna have their cattle be part of any of these USDA verified programs, this is part of the process that they have to be involved in. Right?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, these are the USDA set of rules that they have set for these programs, that we just come in and we make sure you're following the rules, basically.
Okay, so you visit a ranch to do this, about how long does it usually take you to do this?
If a ranch has good records, like most of us do, if you have good records, it only takes about an hour and a half to 2 hours, depending if you have leased property. So we have to go and look at other different groups of cattle or something like that, but it's usually an hour and a half to 2 hours that it takes.
Okay, all right, and for local cattlemen, I mean, you're local, or I understand like you have to fly somewhere, but you're local. What are the costs involved in having a company like yours come and third-party verify?
So it depends on your size herd. Our base price ranges anywhere from $1,000 to $1,600 for the audit. Then you would have your tag costs, which your tags are $1.90 for the EID button tags. And then travel costs, for me, travel costs are very minimal. If I'm coming to visit someone here in the state of Florida, it's just basically my drive time. If I have to fly somewhere, I went to Kentucky the other week and it cost me, it was about $350, I think, to go there. But luckily the rancher that I went to visit, he has a cabin that I could stay in, so that cut down on my cost for that. It depends, but locally here in Florida, it would just be drive time, and then that either, depending on the size of your herd, it's 1,000 if you have 150 or less, and then we go up in a bracket system all the way up to 500 head. Then once you get to 500 head and plus, it's just a flat $1,600.
Okay, all right, very good. So you're off the hot seat. Does anybody have any questions for Breeley at this point? Okay, thanks, Breeley. All right, and so next we have Mr. Dave Tomko. All right, so Mr. Tomko, Dave, can you explain to us the Cattlemen's Livestock Market's VAC program, please?
What we're calling the CLM VAC program is we kind of established it for our producers to have a value-added program at the markets. The program is kind of broke down into two brackets, a single shot, which is a VAC 24, and a double dose, which is a VAC 34 plus. The program's kind of mirrored. It was superior livestock VAC programs, no-keep VAC programs, whereas the buyers and the producers, the sellers have kind of options of where they want to market the cattle. Basically, the program is there's a VAC 24 calf will get this orange tag, which has Cattlemen's CLM VAC 24, the numeric number. The 34 program will just have a blue tag. We'll have the VAC sale starting next month, but it'll be the third Tuesday of every month. We'll have a VAC program. Kind of just, and we've come across, I mean, we started this back up again, I guess to say. Years ago, the LMA, they had an LMA, which is Livestock Market Station, had a VAC program that they tried to get started, which was a good program, just before its time. But what we've seen in the last several years, the value added to these vaccinated calves is increasing, and so we've tried to do something for our customers to market the cattle and get a little bit more money out of them.
Okay, and I realize these sales are just getting started, but at this point, about how many cattle do you have enrolled in the program?
Right now, we've got about 550 tags out that we've handed out. There's about 150 of them are on the VAC 34 program, and the rest of them are on the VAC 24 program. Have a lot of interest. People thinking about it, asking questions about it. So I think after we kind of get started, it'll evolve.
Once the sales begin, yes, okay, and so that was gonna be my next question, which one was more popular, but I think you.
Well, right now, the VAC 24 is, and I believe probably people getting started in it are probably start with the VAC 24, but it'll probably evolve into the 34 program.
Okay, and then, how can somebody participate in this program? So, like, what sort of documentation is required?
Right now, all you gotta do is come to the market, and we have just a basic form. It has all the guidelines on it, vaccination dates, what you do, but anyway, you fill out what products you use on the 7-way, 8-way, the viral 5-way, so that's whatever product you use. You mark down what you've learned, and you've implanted them, your pesticide control, and basically turn that back into us, and we will keep that for our records, so that when you bring the cattle back, we'll have something as the cattle sell, we'll say, okay, David McCullough, Percolate Ranch has 50 head of calves, they're on the VAC 34 program, and this is what they have. So, and if the cattle get someplace in a different country, and they see the feeder or something, sees the tags, they can call up and say, hey, we've got these tags, whatever numbers we can say, okay, this calf's gonna have this in the back.
Okay, and then, are any of these practices certified? Like, does a vet have to sign off or anything like that? It's
Right
just
now, they're not, they're just.
what's written out, yeah, okay. And then, do you currently have buyers that are willing to pay extra or that have indicated that they're interested in this?
Yes, all of them we've talked to us, and have faucets, they're gonna be on board on the VAC program. Kind of example how the VAC program works with the last year before last. Me and Mike had a bunch of leftover weed calves are vaccinated, kids are out some different. Anyway, we had about 100 to 150 head of good vaccinated weed calves in the barn. Sold them one day, advertised them, and one buyer bought the whole, or 90% of them anyway. And pinned them by themselves, or they did not commingle with any of the other cell barn cattle. Anyway, put them on a truck, and they were out the whole other vaccinated calves.
All right, any questions for Dave at this point? Okay, all right. So Mike, you're back on the hot seat.
Okay,
So, first, can you just explain the most frequently used value-added program offered by SLA? I know that there are a lot of value-added programs. You can go on the website and there's a whole list of them, but which ones do you think are most popular?
I think the most popular for my customers and probably most of Florida would be the VAC 34 or VAC 34 plus, which is the 2 rounds of shots with the Pastrella. Definitely that would be the most used.
Okay. And how have you seen producers take advantage of these programs over the years? And my thinking on that was, maybe you had producers that weren't involved in these sorts of programs, but what made them decide to do it, and how has that worked for them?
All right. Well, when I first started being a Superior rep, pretty much we did the VAC 24 as a producer, and most of the people that I repped for at that time didn't even give any vaccinations. So we started with just the VAC 24, which was the first round of shots. And back then I kind of did between our customers, maybe the first example was Lake Hancock cattle out here, just not far over here from Well, we got him to vaccinate with 2 rounds of shots, and as his cattle sold, and our cattle sold on the same day, they brought pretty much the same money, wasn't much difference. But as over the years have gone, which I've been there now, I think 21 years, I've started to notice that there is a larger difference in the price between the VAC programs. Mainly because there's a lot of the buyers I've found over the years, especially in the last, say, 2 or 3 years, they just will not bid on cattle that haven't had 2 rounds of shots. So in an auction situation, when they look at their catalog, their superior catalog, and if it's a VAC 24 program, they won't even look at those cattle. If it's a VAC 34, that's what they're more interested in. So on a day that they're selling thousands of head of cattle, you want all the buyer participation you can get. So that's why pretty much all my customers now have gone over to the VAC 34.
Okay. And then as far as these programs through Superior Livestock Auction, how are those verified or certified, or are they?
They're the same as I was gonna say that, it's the same with the cattleman's livestock market. You just it's an affidavit, and it's kind of on the honor system. But someone asked me, well, how do you know, or how will those people know if they've had shots, the buyers? And why can't you cheat, you know? And I said, well, you can the first year. And after that man gets the cattle and, you know, he has 5% death loss and they're sick and it's hard to get them started on feed because of their health, the next year, it's a small world in the cattle industry, especially since we have all this technology now. The word gets around, and anyway, next year he won't buy your cattle. And after a while, if you're cheating, you're just cheating yourself.
Okay. And my last question you've already answered, and between your presentation on the data and you just answered it, but I'm going to go ahead and ask it again just to make sure. Are buyers willing to pay more for cattle that are marketed through these programs?
I'm going to say yes, and primarily because of the reason a lot of them won't bid on the cattle if they don't have 2 rounds of shots. So that's going to make them bring, I don't know if they're giving more for the ones that have had the 2 rounds or less for the ones that haven't. You can look at it either way, like Doc was saying. But I think definitely 2 rounds of shots will pay for itself.
That's a sort of glass half full, half empty sort of thing, and yeah, so that's helpful. Thank you.
Can I say one other thing?
You sure can.
With what David was talking about with his vaccination programs for these sale barn calves, the other thing that I hear from buyers, a lot of the buyers that buy on Superior also buy at our sale barns. So, you know, we have a relationship with all of them. And some of the people that were getting the sale barn cattle have quit buying sale barn cattle because of the health problems. I think to keep the sale barns operating in Florida these days, we need to all work hard to produce a better animal, more healthy animal. And that's why Dave started this VAC program to try to get some premiums for the smaller producers. And if not, the sale barns are going to go away, and we've got to have them to keep the livestock industry alive in Florida.
All right, any questions for Mike? Thank you.
I got one. What's the importance of having your cattle herd vaccinated also before you do the cattle post? You know, I promise some people this year that it's not really advantageous
Yeah, I don't,
Can you
that's.
repeat that question? Sorry.
He was saying about, does it do any good to vaccinate the calves if you haven't vaccinated the cows?
Right, right.
Yes, it does do good. You have to ask the veterinarians about the specific reasons. But just me as a producer, I think it doesn't matter. You need to vaccinate the calves, whether you vaccinate the cows or not.
On the vaccination of the cows, I know that there's a small breeder that's close to me in Frostproof that has lost some calves due to blackleg. I haven't seen blackleg since I was a kid in the 70s, but it's around, it's still alive. If you don't vaccinate the mama cow and give that calf at birth the right start, it's hard to pick up the vaccine program and get it going after it's already had a setback or a death loss.
The cow side, you have maternal antibodies for at least 60 days post-calving.
Let you do that. Here you go. Here.
On the cow side, you have. On the cow side, you have at least 60 days of antibody protection through maternal transfer of the antibodies to that calf. So the first 60 to maybe 90 days of its life is protected through maternal antibodies, and then when you vaccinate the calf, you pick up that control through vaccinating the calf. And I would highly recommend a kill vaccine on the cow side. And when we talk about vaccination on the cow side too, not only are we talking about clostridial vaccinations, but we're talking about the virals, your IBR, your BVDPI3, VRSV, those maternal antibodies are transferred to the calf also, but it also protects the mother against abortions. So on the calf side, I highly recommend modified live vaccines and a series of 2 while the calf is nursing.
Thank you. That's Dr. Jukic. Those of you that don't know him, Dr. Robert Jukic, he is with Lakeville's Large Animal Veterinary Services, and thank you. Always great information. Any other questions?
Hey, can I say one more?
Yes, you sure can.
I know we've been talking about vaccination programs and everything, but the overall herd health, and I can see this weekly at the market. Calves that come in that typically look strong, and before they get to the cell ring are buckling her down. They come off the truck, everybody knows that nothing's wrong with that calf. But we need to focus on the herd health as far as nutrition, supplements, minerals, salt, deworming, pesticide control, but it as a whole, not just from vaccination, but if you don't use mineral, use mineral. If you don't use salt, use salt. But every little bit helps.
Thank you. Any other questions? Comments?
I have
Yes. Here, let me give you this microphone this time. Here, this will work now. Oh, there you go.
I get a little concerned when we talk about GAP programs, and we have so much good, excellent technology today in our cow side and our calf side, and we start giving up implants and raising cattle on grass. The quality of our beef to me, is going to really decrease, and our carbon footprint is going to increase, and it's going to take many, many more days to get a calf to 1,200 to 1,300 pounds to slaughter. So I really get concerned when we talk about GAP programs and not using our technology. And vaccines are technology. I mean, if you're going to do all natural, give up your vaccines, in my opinion.
Okay. Anything else? Well, thank you. I thank all of our presenters today. You all provided a lot of valuable information. I especially want to thank Merck Animal Health, Mr. Greg Wooder, Dr. Harold Newcomb. Thank you all so much. This was a great dinner, great program, so thank you for doing that. I want to thank all of you for being here tonight. I hope that you were able to take some time to complete the evaluation. You all should have gotten flyers for 2 of our upcoming programs that the South Florida Beef Forage program is offering. Ranching Foundations is one of them that will be in May, as well as Nutrition for Beef Females. So hopefully you've seen those. If you're interested in those, make sure that you register. Dr. Newcomb talked about BQA, and I'm going to totally be putting Haley on the spot here, but Haley Tomko with the Cattle and Livestock Market and I are looking at putting together a BQA program this fall. So be on the lookout for that. We will be having a really great BQA program. You can get BQA certified. And with that, again, I thank you. You all have a good night and a good weekend.
Thank you, Bridget.